Gather around, travellers, and behold the icy remnants of this world, for in the year 1886, the destiny of humanity took an irreversible turn, as a great frost descended on the world, and with it, empires of steam and steel were brought to their knees. The gears of innovation fell silent, as an age of bright-eyed optimism and mechanical wonders was swallowed by the relentless embrace of an unforgiving winter that knew no end. Now, amidst the tombstones of the fallen nations, the last enclaves of humankind toil, residing in a series of perilous sanctuaries scattered across the frozen deserts of this new world. Their struggle is no longer for glory nor for progress, but for the flickering flame of life itself. Welcome aboard, everyone. This is your captain speaking, and I hope you brought your mittens, because today we're heading to the icy wastes of Frostpunk. What caused this once vibrant world to be covered in ice? Why, of all places, did people flee the cold to the Arctic? And what was life like within the generator cities of the Frostlands? Wrap up warm, grab a blanket, and please, try to avoid eating the yellow snow. Let's embark on our lore tour of Frostpunk. Before the Great Frost engulfed this world, it was an era defined by the roaring engines of industrial ambition and the far-reaching shadow of imperial power. Across the developed world, daily life had been made unrecognizable by a new, unstoppable force. Steam power, the heartbeat of this age. This new marvel revolutionized everything. It shrank the world in ways previously unimaginable, creating a new reality where distances that once seemed insurmountable were now easily bridged. Railways like iron arteries crisscrossed continents. Telegraph networks spun a web of communication, binding together distant lands with a stream of new forts. Giant steamships conquered the oceans and carved new routes across the seas, while spectacular airships dared to explore a new territory, the sky. At the heart of this new world was the British Empire, a colossal power whose influence either directly or indirectly shaped the fate and fortunes of all other nations. This era, under the Empire's unyielding grasp, was a spectacle of awe-inspiring industrial progress, yet it was also a time rife with profound societal challenges. The Empire, for all its might and splendor, was a realm of stark contrasts and vast inequalities. The majority of its subjects lived under the rule of a few, with many left to endure the harsher realities of this new world order. London, the pulsing heart of the Empire, epitomized these contrasts. It was a city where opulent wealth and dire poverty existed side by side. The affluent, in their grand houses and sprawling manors, revelled in the luxuries of this new, industrialized age. Meanwhile, the working classes toiled tirelessly under the long shadows of towering factory smokestacks. At the forefront of the technological revolution that spawned this new age was the mathematician Charles Babbage. His groundbreaking work, in collaboration with the brilliant Ada Lovelace, led to the creation of the first steam-powered mechanical general-purpose computers. These machines marked the beginning of a new information age, an era where each decade brought forth smaller, more complex, analytical machines capable of executing increasingly intricate tasks. This dawn of the information age also paved the way for the invention of even greater technological marvels. Among these was the steam core, an ingenious creation of a scientist known as Professor Hawkins. This device, rapidly adopted by nations worldwide, became a cornerstone in the operation of advanced industrial facilities and fantastic new technological marvels. One of the most awe-inspiring applications of this technology was the creation of the new automatons, towering constructs of steel and steam. These mechanical giants were the very embodiment of this era's industrial spirit, born from a complex amalgamation of Babbage's advanced computers, intricate clockwork mechanisms, and the power of Professor Hawkins' steam cores. These autonomous machines propelled the British Empire to unparalleled heights, revolutionizing the workforce and working tirelessly in the Empire's factories. They required no rest, unlike the human workers they increasingly replaced. In spite of this rapid technological development, the British Empire, in all its might, would eventually come face to face with a force that it could not conquer, neither with the might of its arms or the combined intelligence of its brightest minds. This foe came to be known as the Great Freeze. While there are many factors that led to this new ice age, perhaps two of the most notable were the eruptions of Mount Tambora and Krakatoa, events that helped usher in a volcanic winter in which the sun's solar radiation was reflected away from the Earth in greater quantities due to volcanic residue in the atmosphere. This and a number of other unknown factors eventually resulted in a series of disastrous weather effects that changed the fate of the planet forever. The first sign of this was the appearance of frost during the unseasonably chilly summer months. Never-ending rainstorms began appearing over the Sahara Desert, and killer snowstorms began sweeping across the northernmost countries, all whilst temperatures across the globe began dropping below freezing. With this drop in temperature, crops began to fail, leading to a worldwide famine. Across the globe, the general mood began to plummet, as families were left to go hungry and freeze to death in their homes. As the world began to darken, the sun finally appeared to be setting on the British Empire, as although the Empire was humanity's best chance of facing and surviving the oncoming new ice age, the politicians of the Empire differed, seemingly unwilling to face up to the impending icy apocalypse. Even as crops failed and snow fell in the height of summer, there were forces within the House of Commons and the House of Lords which refused to acknowledge the severity of the oncoming crisis. It was only when the evidence began to pile in the form of snowdrifts which swallowed the streets of London that they accepted the reality of the Great Frost and stopped stonewalling efforts to confront it. In a desperate bid to understand the Great Frost, those in power turned to their greatest minds. A British science expedition alongside groups from other nations headed north to conduct research into the causes of the recent changes to the climate. The universities of Oxford and Cambridge were tasked to collect seeds and saplings from across the remnants of the Empire, all part of an attempt to preserve these precious specimens, keeping them in arks nestled in the Arctic's icy embrace, holding on to the hope of restoring greenery to their world when the frost finally receded. As world temperatures continued to plummet, the engineers of the Imperial Exploration Company were sent to scour the Arctic, seeking suitable sites to construct mighty heat generator towers. These coal-powered marvels of engineering were designed to be the nuclei around which new colonies, new cities, would rise. A warm sanctuary that a small portion of the United Kingdom's populace could evacuate to, ready to start a new life in the Frostlands. With this initial research complete, the Empire faced a choice between two options: either ship its population to the Empire's warmer territories around the equator, or venture north to the coal-rich Arctic, seeking shelter amongst the few generators they had built. Initially, the former seemed practical, and was the favoured option, believing shipping the population south to be more palatable to the populace, as well as being more practical in regards to the larger number of citizens that could be shipped south. But as the equatorial regions were flooded with refugees, they began to struggle, with plummeting temperatures eradicating the unadapted flora and fauna of the region, and resources quickly being depleted. The region descended into chaos. As a result, the latter option, as daunting as it was, gained favour, eventually becoming the only option, as a vast blizzard began sweeping towards the UK, blanketing all below it in an apocalyptic frost. With the impending blizzard came societal collapse, a population already discontented by work riots and endless bread queues revolted. And as the cities of the UK and Europe succumbed to the blizzard's icy grip, the UK government made the decision to evacuate as much of its population as it could north towards the generator sites, loading the populace into commandeered ships and a series of giant land dreadnoughts, steam-powered automotives larger than any ship and capable of traversing the frozen oceans. The cost of manufacturing these dreadnoughts effectively bankrupted the Empire, but they provided survivors, most of whom were the wealthy upper classes of Britain, their best chance of reaching a new home in the Frostlands, ready to start a new existence of hardship, cold, and pain, unlike anything they had faced before. This journey north was one fraught with danger and peril. Ships were lost in swirling blizzards, and many of the awe-inspiring dreadnoughts were lost, caught between the shifting terrain of newly created ice plates, and left as an icy reminder of man's folly to challenge Mother Nature. Those few who did arrive at their new home faced a daunting task, creating a new life in the relentless cold. Their survival hinged on one crucial element, the mighty generator. This towering beacon of warmth became the focal point of their entire existence, around which their town and their lives revolved. The daily lives of these survivors, many of whom came from the upper echelons of society and had no experience of labour or hardship, now centred on the rigours of survival. Gone were the banquets, feasts and high fashion, replaced with a never-ending struggle to keep the city warm as temperatures continued to plummet. Venturing out into the snow during the day when the temperature peaked, to mine for coal to feed their generator, and gather what resources they could find from the battered debris of their forgotten world to build up their new one. Fueling the people was of secondary concern, but no less vital. Hunters ventured into the cold, braving the unknown to bring back food, while automated hothouses grew moss and other vegetation for the city's inhabitants, huddled in their cold, cramped lodgings, or seeking solace in the pubs and pleasure houses that arose in the shadows of the generator, drinking to forget their icy new existence. But life in these icy enclaves was not just a battle against the cold, it was also a struggle within. As the settlements grew, societal struggles emerged. Old class tensions between working and upper-class refugees boiled over into brawls and public executions, and in the face of overwhelming odds in their battle for survival, the captains of these cities often fell back on two means of controlling their populace and ensuring their generator cities would not fall to cold and chaos. Order, with its strict rules and regimented structure, promised survival through discipline, while faith offered hope and solace in a world that had turned its back on humanity. And as the weeks turned to months and the months blended into years, a new world began to emerge amongst the Frostlands, beacons of humanity's resilience amongst the snow, each settlement a unique bastion of civilization, shaped by their own internal struggles and situations. Chief amongst these were the cities that arose around the British generator sites, built by the Imperial Exploration Company. One of the earliest of these British settlements was the city of Winterhome. By the time London fell to the Great Frost, Winterhome had already established itself as a small city out amongst the Frostlands. Under its military government it had flourished, constructing local infrastructure, advanced facilities, and a number of automatons. Elsewhere in the Frostlands, a group of workers from London had revolted against the upper class, taking over a dreadnought bound for a generator site meant for the nobility of the old United Kingdom, while the City of Legacy was founded by academics of Cambridge and Oxford, creating an industrialised and automated city with the sole purpose of preserving the seed banks housed there, an ark that contained the very seeds meant to repopulate the planet's flora after the Great Freeze. And in a crater carved into the Frostlands lay a generator that would come to form the city of New London. Initially settled by a group of 80 survivors, hailing from a land dreadnought that ran out of fuel on its way from London, this settlement would gradually grow from a small collection of shacks and workshops into the largest city and brightest hope for humanity in all of the Frostlands. But other nations of the world also staked a claim to this icy new world. The French had a failed attempt to create a perpetually moving train that was intended to pierce a path through the snow and serve as a home to a lucky few French citizens, while an American expedition led by scientist Nikola Tesla resulted in the creation of Tesla City, an incredibly technologically advanced settlement owned and managed by the iron-tight grip of the Tesla Manufacturing Corporation. The tyranny of the Great Frost would prove too much for many of these cities, however. Smaller settlements such as the city of New Manchester fell due to poor leadership and a lack of skilled workers to maintain their generators, while Tesla City fell to the hubris of its own founder, when Nikola Tesla attempted to implement an electricity field designed to shield his city against the encroaching snow, culminating in this new invention malfunctioning and electrocuting those it was designed to protect, leaving the city as a completely intact ghost town, filled with nothing but a treasure trove of advanced technologies and the blackened corpses of its prior inhabitants. Perhaps the most tragic of all, however, was the downfall of Winterhome. Once a shining example of what life in the Frostlands could be, the city would become overwhelmed with refugees after the fall of London, leading to riots and food shortages. The military junta in charge of the city responded to this outbreak of dissent with increasingly harsh rule, before finally, due to a lack of attention and oversight, the generator exploded, killing most of the city's population in the process. Those who survived either left to join other settlements, or stayed in Winterhome and succumbed first to cannibalism and then to exposure. But amidst the chaos of this bitter struggle for survival, New London stands strong. This bastion of humanity thrived under the leadership and direction of its captain, and when its scouting parties picked up the first signs of the storm to end all storms, New London was ready, laying low in their fully insulated homes as their generator rattled and creaked, battling tirelessly against a storm so cold, with wind so strong, that all, even the tireless metal automatons of New London, fell still. And after a week that felt like an eternity of hell, the citizens of New London began to notice the days getting lighter, as though the clouds were thinning. The howling of the wind had lessened, and slowly but surely, people began to force their way out of their frozen front doors, looking up and seeing blue sky for the first time in well over a year. Not only that, they also saw sunshine creeping over their city as the sun began to rise, ushering in a new age for the survivors of New London. Almost as quickly as it had arrived, the storm disappeared, and the temperature shot back up to the relatively warm -20 degrees Celsius. As expeditions began venturing back out into the wastes, they discovered that the storm had also unearthed an abandoned warehouse, one left over from the days of the Empire, likely full of supplies needed to expand the city, rebuild the fallen British Empire, and bring mankind out of its forced hibernation. The City of London began creating outposts, claiming new territory, ready to rebuild a new world. Now in the year 1917, 31 years after the Great Freeze, New London stands at the centre of a new world, one that is growing bolder, venturing further out past the Frostlands, in search of a new lifeblood for their empire of ice, ushering in a new age of oil. What will the future bring for the residents of New London? Will the old world be reclaimed? Is the Great Frost coming back with a vengeance, ready to claw them back into the Ice Age? Or will humanity be the cause of their own downfall, as corruption, chaos, and greed threaten to bring down the cities of this new world? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. But until then, I'd like to thank you for choosing to fly with Lore Tours today. Let us know down in the comments if you think you would survive the icy wastes of Frostpunk. And if you enjoyed this trip, make sure to subscribe so that you can fly with us again soon. Thanks for watching, catch you next time.